Hey there, restaurant pros. It's Dave Scott Peters, and welcome to the Restaurant Prosperity Formula podcast. For over 2 decades, I've been guiding restaurant owners to success with the proven principles of something I call the Restaurant Prosperity Formula. I originally created the formula based on the daily practices of the most successful restaurateurs I coached, and it's now the foundation of what I teach restaurant owners like you so you can achieve success. What do I mean by success? Success is a restaurant owner who dictates the terms of their life and their bank account instead of their restaurants dictating those things for them. Success is a restaurant owner who has freedom from the restaurant and the financial freedom they never thought possible. How you define success is up to you, but I do know the way to achieving it is using the Restaurant Prosperity Formula. This season, I'm diving even deeper into the core elements of the formula: leadership, systems, training, accountability, and taking action. Along with my insights, you'll hear from special guests, industry experts, and inspiring success stories from fellow restaurant owners who've turned their businesses around and found their definition of success. In this episode, number 135, our guest is Linda Grace Zadoian. Linda Grace is the owner and operator of Piccadilly Grace Café and Market, with locations in San Marino and South Pasadena, California. With 8 years of experience running her cafes, she is passionate about hospitality, cooking, creating, teaching, and leading. Linda is known as a dedicated community fixture who brings warmth and creativity to everything she does. In this episode, Linda shares her journey from her career in middle market finance to starting a small catering company to multi-unit restaurant operator. If you think you've seen some challenges in your days, wait until you hear what she's had to overcome and how her life has changed for the better, so much so she's back to loving what she does. Let's get started. But first, a word from our sponsor. Boost your restaurant's performance with the Service with Style's secret shopping program. Get comprehensive reports with photos, customized visit templates, a vast network of experienced shoppers, and a fantastic scoring system so you know exactly what your guests are experiencing. You control the frequency and rotation. No minimums, no contracts, no cancellation charges, and no hidden fees. Enjoy industry-leading reporting and scoring software, plus a 10% discount off the price, and your first shop is free. Set up a quick call today at www.servicewithstyle.com/DSP. Linda, I want to thank you so much for doing this with me.
Thank you, David.
So we've kind of had about a year together, and you've got quite a story. And I'm going to let you tell it, but I want people to understand that we were on literally, I think before we got on this, I was like, for the last 6 weeks, I have been gushing over the change you've made. And the majority of the change, it's not even about the numbers. It's really about where you are centered as a leader. From a lot of chaos that was going on when we first met, a lot of real crises, not just, regular restaurant stuff. Like, we'll talk about where you are and fires and all the things that happened to you. But the fact of the matter is, there was this urgency to make change. It was, I can't believe I already wanted to make this change and now everything's burning down, figurative and literally. And you had to lead your way through that to where you are today, where, man, you've got managers installed. You're calmly deciding if somebody's going to make it or not. You're calmly deciding what you need to do. You're spending time like a restaurant owner working on, your numbers. You're working on marketing. You're leading the team. You went from being your best prep cook for all intents and purposes to the leader of your business. And that's what I want people to understand as we talk. Your transformation is truly incredible. Do me a favor, tell people a little bit about how you got in the business, your restaurants, and the challenges when we first met.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, so professionally, I came up, I had kind of these two dual careers. I came up in middle market finance, and I was doing that when my children were like very little. And then I found that, wait, I can't spend any time with my kids. And I started a very small catering company. We did these Middle Eastern dumplings, and I shipped them all over the country on dry ice. And I did that for a while. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm not making the kind of money that I was making in finance. And I went back. Then a couple of years into it, the girls started getting a little bigger, and I just wasn't happy. I knew that food and hospitality was where I wanted to be, but I needed to figure out how to do this. I put my vibes into the universe, and I had an operator contact me, and he said, "Look, I'm leaving this cafe. Do you want it?" And I had never managed, done anything with a brick and mortar. I had no idea what I was doing. And of course, I said yes. 6 weeks after I signed the lease, I opened my doors. And literally, I remember the night before, I was sitting there like, we were putting this chicken salad recipe together, put a menu together. We trained a staff. In 6 weeks, I opened my doors, and my first year was horrible. I had to figure out what it means to do food in volume, how to take care of a whole dining room of guests. It was very different, and I had no experience. So by year 2 and 3, I kind of dug my heels into the ground, and I said, I am going to figure this out. And it started working. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can actually pay my bills, and this is cool. This is great. But then it started growing, and I didn't know how to scale. So then a pandemic hit, and I was kind of forced to. And we did really well. All I really knew how to do was reach out to the community and say, hey guys, I can feed you. I'm friendly. I'm nice. Come and eat my food. And it was working. And it started to grow and grow. I opened my second location. I opened my third location. And then inflation hit. And in Los Angeles, food and labor rose 40% almost overnight.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, my sweet spirit and good food is only going to get me so far. And I had grown enough to where, there was volume there. I sold off my third store. I had to kind of cut that weakest link. And I still really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have any restaurant background. I didn't have any restaurant coaching. I was basically, figuring it out on spreadsheets and trial and error and going, oh, shoot, I can't do this month, and just winging it. And I was winging it for years. And I was just in the trenches with the team. I was on the line. I was on the register. I was all over the place. This great idea I had about spending more time with my kids. My kids got to see mom really grinding and holding this business together, which, look, it gave them a whole other level of strength, which I'm grateful for. But the real turning point happened kind of at the end of 2004. I just hit a wall. I couldn't wing it anymore. I lost my oomph. I was tired.
Yeah.
And I started searching, and I was listening to podcasts, and I came across your podcast. And I was like, I got to talk to this guy. And I reached out, and Ryan contacted me, and we were talking, and I was just kind of like telling him my woes. And he was almost like he's heard it before a few times. So, I was really apprehensive. I wasn't sure. I was like, okay, is this just another thing? What am I doing? I'm already so neat. I couldn't see past anything. My creativity was compromised, right? My spirit was compromised. I was, like I said, I was tired. I was trying to figure out, how am I going to make payroll? How am I going to make rent? How are we going to buy this food? How am I going to figure out, what am I going to say to the vendor? All those problems were just stacking up. And I went for it. I started the program, and then within weeks, the Pasadena fires happened, which is a community. I'm in the Pasadena area. It's a community literally 5 minutes away from me, and the entire community was gone, and it was devastating. And so kind of mobilized, figured out, okay, how am I going to keep this community? Hospitality, that is everything for me. That is how I built a business. I did not have systems, but I had a lot of heart, and that worked for me for a very long time. And that's what we did. We mobilized, and we reached out to the community, and we did what we could. But guess what? The money, the finances, the rent being paid, the payroll being covered, it still was an issue. I started getting on calls. I started trying to really feel what was happening, trying to figure out, okay, what do I do? How do I position all of this? And then in February, so fires happened in January, February, my father passes away. And so it was like kind of grief on grief. So life was really lifing.
Yeah.
And then I took a step back and I was like, okay, I love my restaurants. I love my cafes. I love what I'm doing. I am not going to be defeated. And it is that it was a mindset. It was a mindset shift of, I want this. I am committed to this and I will do whatever I need to do. And so I got on the calls and I started talking to you guys, and we started working on budgets and we started working on checklists. And I just kind of infused my brain into your systems. Like I said, I had a lot of heart, but man, I had no systems. And slowly things started to change. I had a couple of implementers, and you kept talking about get an implementer. And I'm like, okay, well, this is the wrong implementer. And I finally brought on the right implementer, and she started to position things. And I was like, oh, wait, I can do this. I can't do it alone. I can do it with an implementer. I can do it with this supportive group. And things started changing and bills started getting paid. And I wasn't freaking out 3 days before payroll. It's not perfect by any means. And I wasn't looking for perfection. I was looking for insight. I was looking for a little bit of balance. I'm a very hard worker, but I know I needed something. And so I think that, what this program is really giving me is that insight. I talk about it on our calls all the time. Support. That's a huge thing for me. I need to be able to come to the arena and say, this is like, does anybody else going through this? And you do. And it's so valuable. And for me, I think different people pull different things. But for me, the value was in the support and people going, hey, why don't you think about it this way? But, look, at the end of the day, none of that matters. Your commitment to your business and your commitment to yourself, I think that's key. And that's the first step. So, yeah, that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Well, do me a favor. Talk a little bit about before you made the decision. So it's 2024. You are at your wit's end. What had you tried before that in order to try and right the ship? To try and give yourself, because it was more from what you describe, it's more you needed a life. It wasn't as much as the money part, although the fires really sucked all that money away. That was after we'd met, and that's after you had started. That was just an extra bonus pain in your ass. But before that, what was it that you tried to do before you said, man, I need to listen to podcasts. I need to reach out and go look on YouTube, find other avenues and maybe some help. What were you doing?
I had no idea that I needed to look at my prime costs the way I was looking at it. I thought all I knew was, oh my gosh, labor is high. Let me fix the schedule. Oh my gosh, let me put a spreadsheet together. Oh my gosh, let me listen to this, person talking about you need to be in, a certain percentage for your labor and your food costs, but not really show me how to get there.
Right.
So there wasn't the systematic way that I could follow. And so it was a lot of winging it. It was a lot of spreadsheets that never went anywhere, waste logs that never went anywhere, checklists that would just go into the drawer. And then I was like, and you guys are talking about all this stuff. You're talking about Jolt, you're talking about Margin Edge, you're talking about these systems, you're talking about restaurant prosperity formula. And I'm going, oh my gosh, why do I need to reinvent the wheel? That's not even working. Okay, let's be honest here. It's not working. And then there's this other world over here that I can use these tools and I have access to these tools. And it's been totally life-changing ever since.
What was that decision like to make that, to actually, you got on a call with Ryan, who is a restaurant owner, who's been through the programs, been successful. I think he's phenomenal at listening to restaurant owners tell their stories and truly understand and empathize. But you kind of decided, I think you talked about, it was Angie and Doug's podcast, just like you're on right now, that you listened to, identified with. What was that decision like to go from the podcast to on a discovery call with Ryan to actually making the decision? Because it's not an inexpensive first move. Like you've got to be a risk taker to say, I'm going to invest in myself. Oh, and I got to do the frickin' work. I hope this works. I'm sure there was a little doubt in there. What was that like?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm a mom. I'm a mom who went for it. I could have stayed in my little cushy finance job. But there was something that was kind of beating inside of me for years. And I knew that I knew I wanted to do something big. I knew I want to do something bigger. Um, it's not a magical 2-hour movie though, right? It's your life.
Right.
And so listening to that podcast, and, there were two people who took a chance and they got into something they didn't know about. And, they talked about how difficult it was and what they thought it was going to be and what they really got. And it was real. It wasn't, this isn't staged. This is real life happening to us. And I think people who get in the restaurant business, we're definitely a certain breed. Yeah. I think we're a certain type of person. And I think when I listened to that podcast, I really related and I felt safe enough to reach out, like, oh, this isn't going to be some bogus, sales pitch or something. No, it felt real and it felt authentic. And so when I reached out and Ryan started talking to me, and then, he started talking about the pricing on it, I'm going, I can't even afford to make payroll. How am I going to afford this? And then I thought, come on, Linda, you know how to afford anything that you put your mind to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think as restaurateurs, we're also really good at that. We kind of invent money from places. So, yeah, and I went for it. And look, it was a slow and bumpy start. That's the honest truth. It was slow and bumpy, but I stuck with it. You guys really worked with me. And it's nice when, when you have other people who believe in you. And that was the safety point for me, where I was like, okay, these guys are talking my language. I feel like, it's a safe place to be. It's a good camp. I think I'm going to get something out of this. And so then, week after week, it was like, oh, there's more value being uncovered. Month after month, things feel more valuable to me because I'm also working it in a way that everything's out there for us, right? All of the coaching calls are a big deal for me. I think I utilize those coaching calls more than anything else. And then even within the library, there's so much information there, even a budget. Like I'm going, how do I budget? I don't know. Well, you guys are teaching me. So that's huge for me.
So you came in the program before we had one-on-one coaching. Like you could get access to me if you had a problem. You still had Mary as a solutions coach. You'd call anytime. But as you were already in the program, we added one of my old coaches, David Militello, from the old days back into this company, and he's phenomenal. What was it like to have that added benefit, to have a weekly call with somebody who's operating restaurants, who's put all this in place? And as we talked about, I'm the jazz hands guy. He's the very level-headed, calm, just keeps you on pace kind of person. What was that additional benefit like, transitioning from just group coaching to also having somebody to talk to?
Oh man, D-Mill was kind of maybe a quiet ninja. I think I came to him loud and explosive, like, hey, all this stuff is happening. What's going on? And he just kind of like, boom, 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 like Tron.
Yeah.
Just kind of gave me these little nuggets of solutions without really even making it seem like they were solutions. He just kind of like talked through it. And I'm going, oh yeah. And then I'd go and I'd make these changes and I'd come back and I'd be like, D-Mail, guess what I did? I did it. And now all this is working. And he's like, yes, little grasshopper. So I really, like, those calls really meant a lot to me, and having someone there Things are really fast. I think for all us restaurateurs, right? We're always dealing with things. But I can take a step back, right? I'm not really in the weeds. I can take a step back. I'm doing more events at the cafes, and those are always things, live music. I love that stuff. I love being able to do that. I don't want to sit there and be stressing over, payroll and schedules, and I don't want to do it. It's not fun. That's the reality for me. I want to entertain people. I want to feed people. I want to make people happy. That's the best part of this business. And I think we get into this business and we lose sight of a lot of that because we get stuck in the weeds. And it sucks. Like, that's the honest truth. So, but what I found was I got support. I get on these calls with D-Mill. I get on these calls with, with all of the restaurateurs, and we're talking about that stuff. And so it gets smaller. It feels like it's not the one thing I'm waking up to every morning. I get to do the things that I love because I'm finding a route for solutions for those other things I don't love so much.
What were some of the first changes you made? Like, was it checklist? Was it something more basic than that? Or was it something more advanced like a budget? What were those first things that you remember were the changes you made?
So I was manually figuring out my labor. I had scheduling tools and stuff like that, and it gave me a percentage, and that percentage was never right when I bumped it up, of course, against my P&L, right? My P&L said one thing, and the P&L is the voice of all of this.
Right.
I really started drilling into what labor looks like and trying to really understand, just because the cooks want, to work 50, 60 hours a week doesn't mean I have to give it to them. And I started making, so as I started drilling into my numbers in a different way, I thought I was always on top of my numbers until I met you guys. And then, reality hit. But as I started drilling into my numbers and looking at it through a different lens, I started making better decisions. And I started this is my business. And I think that sometimes, previously, I think I've gotten lost. I care about my team so much. I want my team to win. I want my team to be happy, right? I can't do this without my cooks, without my front of the house, without my managers. But ultimately, if business is slow, I don't get paid, and they do. If business is booming, I get to pay all my bills and they get paid, and maybe I do.
Right.
So it was really making better decisions for myself as an owner and for my team, right? Like learning boundaries, learning that just because the community wanted it and the cooks wanted it and the front of the house wanted it didn't mean it was going to happen. And where I could still make them very happy and I could still give them what they want, but really becoming a better owner and a better leader. That's where I am right now in my growth.
No, I absolutely. You probably came in feeling more a little bit of victim to all the things that had happened to you, and now you are literally driving the ship. There's a reason why in the restaurant prosperity formula I put leadership first, because I tell people, I said, the number one reason why restaurants fail is lack of leadership. And just because we own a restaurant doesn't make us a born leader. And that's where the systems come in. The support comes in, is we make up for our weaknesses as a leader. If you're dare I say, you're the hospitality person, you're the giver, the social worker, make sure the guest has a great experience, my employees are taken care of. But we didn't always pay attention to the numbers and the KPIs and what systems we put in place. And all of a sudden you start adding those things, and leading becomes so much easier because we're not only taking care of the guests, we're not only taking care of employees, but we go, we have a budget. We've got sales goals to hit. If we don't hit those goals, I've got to cut labor back. If we do, we can add labor, all the different things. You're guiding the ship, not just on your gut, but you have the numbers to back it up and make those decisions. So with that in mind, was there any unexpected shift from joining the program and where you are today? Like, you didn't expect this to happen, or did you expect everything you got?
Well, I think getting into the numbers and really understanding what the business looks like. and then making decisions based on that, and that translating into my own leadership growth. I think I always thought I was honest, but I think there was a reality check for me, and I had to get out of my own way. And I think that was the biggest thing. That was the biggest transformation that happened. Look, I'm a middle-aged woman who's kind of going, well, I built these restaurants and it's been 8 years, and look at me, and I did all this revenue and I did all this stuff and I'm great. No, I'm not. I've got a lot to learn. And that's the honest truth. I had to get super honest with myself. I mean, yeah, look, I'm fabulous, but
Amen.
I had to get super honest with myself and be like, okay, if you want to keep growing, if you really want to be the leader that you say you want to be, you need to get out of your way. You need to put your ego to the side, and you need to get really humble, and you need to do something. And I think that was my biggest shift was it's this like this duality with, okay, here are some facts. I need to make decisions based on that. But I have behaviors that I had adopted. I had mindsets that I had adopted that I needed to shed. And I wasn't going to get better. My numbers wouldn't get better. My hospitality won't get better until I get out of my way and do things the right way and learn how to do them. That is a very humbling experience.
It's not easy for anybody. It's hard enough to say I need help, especially in the restaurant business. Oh my God, you're going to go have a coach. You're going to bring in a consultant. You're going to do like, oh, can't you just figure this out yourself? In any other industry, like when you go to finance, the company be like, oh, we just paid $8 million for this consulting company to come in, all proud of it. But in the restaurant business, you need help. Why can't you run the frickin' restaurant? Right? It's this weird stigma. So you already say I need help. It's another to say I want and need help. And it's another to say, let me listen to what's going on and change what I'm doing. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but early on our group coaching calls, you and I from time to time would go toe to toe. You would tell me why something I said could not work. You don't understand. My restaurant's different. I'm like, I don't know. What do you serve with a limp? It's hospitality. We would battle a little bit. And then over time, those battles became okay. A member would bring something up, you'd be like, okay. And then at some point in time, it flipped and you go, I've made these changes. I can help other owners on these calls. Talk about that shift, because it was a little defensive in the beginning. Am I misstating that?
No, yeah, you're right. Because those defenses are what got me as far as they got me. Right. So I'm putting value into those defenses. I'm like, you don't understand what I've been through. I went through a pandemic and I've gone through fires and you don't know. And all of that BS. And it's just, that's all it is. It's BS. And the moment we can let go of those things and allow ourselves to listen and to grow and to actually admit that, oh, wait a second, that only got me so far. I want to go further. I really want to go further. And those behaviors are not going to help me. Those habits are not going to take me to the next step. Those habits are going to keep me in this little place that I don't want to be in. And so 100%, I think it was me having to take a step back and be like, okay, just listen to your coaches now. It's time to listen. Yeah, that was a big, you got me to admit it, David. There you go.
Well, again, it's one of the hardest things, because it's, again, hard enough to go, hey, I don't know what I don't know. Let me reach out and get help. It's another thing to make a decision to say, I'm going to part with real money. This better not suck. This better not be a scam. I was on a call with a woman just the other day that Ryan talked to, wanted referrals. And I'm like, I don't give referrals. I don't want my members to sell for me. And oh, by the way, what am I going to do? I'm going to give you somebody who's happy with me. Like, what does that do for you? But adamant about, because she had been burned so many times before. We talked about consultants, talked about different software packages, what was promised, and so on and so forth. And I was real honest. I'm like, I just want you to know you're doing the work. Like, I'll give you what I got and I will be there to support you. But this value part comes to you doing the work. I want you to address that part, because you made the decision, and at some point in time, you let the defenses down and you did the frickin' work. What is it like when I say I suck, I create work? Like, do I create work?
Does David create work?
Yeah.
Is that the question you're
Yeah.
asking me? You know, look, at first it felt like, okay, I've got to go through these modules and what am I doing? And, okay, that's great. Um, but when again, there was a shift, there was a change. It doesn't feel like work anymore. Now it feels like I'm just on top of my business.
Yeah.
And all you're doing is giving us tools to look at our business in a different way, or else we wouldn't be here, right? If we had it all figured out, why would we even be listening to coaching calls? Why would we even be searching for answers? It's because this is a really tough industry. And when you're in an industry where you're averaging what are we at now? 7% profitability, 10%
Yep.
profitability.
Five to eight is a national average.
Right. Whatever, right? We chose a business in an industry where it is so razor thin. You better know exactly what you're doing or get out of the business. I mean, I don't want to sound, I don't want to sound, hard about it, but if you love it so much, you better figure it out. And I needed help figuring it out. I wasn't going to lose. I was going to win. And I was going to figure out how to get that margin up. I was going to figure out how to pay my bills. I was going to figure out how to have fun again. And when it's like that, it's not work.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like work. At the beginning, I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through all this stuff? What is this? Why is it giving me homework? If people know me, we'll have like nonprofits come and they ask for donations and they give me a pile of paperwork. And I'm like, no, you're asking me for something. You do the paperwork. I'll give you a gift card. So yeah, I don't need extra homework. But no, this feels like I'm putting into the business that I chose to do.
So what is life like now for you? What's life like for Linda? It's not all peaches and cream and, honey and flowers. There's still challenges, but what's it like?
Yeah. So when my dad passed away in February, my family legacy, my grandfather had a restaurant on the banks of the Tigris River, and he called it Piccadilly. And I decided after my father passed away that I was going to continue that family legacy. And I decided to rebrand my businesses to Piccadilly Grace. Grace is my middle name, and Piccadilly is my family legacy. And I had thought about this for a while, but I think with that transition, it was even more like the universe was telling me, okay, Linda, it's time, let's go. And so I started to rebrand, and I got a designer, and we repainted signs, and the community started connecting again, because I opened up and I started connecting back with them, and I started telling my story. And I think I was, in this cocoon for a while, trying to survive. And when the adversity and the tragedy happens, and you also have a supportive community, it becomes easier. And so I started giving more of myself, and things are so much fun now. Business is great. We are growing. Now I just need to figure out how to get more efficient because we're growing a lot faster. But connecting with the community and giving them myself, giving who I am, right? I strongly believe in that type of hospitality. Yep. Being able to do it because I'm feeling better about myself. And having music at the cafes, and being able to do events, and I'm having a great time again. And it feels wonderful. It feels like, isn't that why we all get in the business?
Well, we need to, that needs to be the reason, right? We say the most successful restaurateurs I've worked with all have a passion for hospitality and are persistent. You are both those things. There are people who get in and they shouldn't be in this business. They don't like people. They don't want to put in the work. Like, if you don't have a love for hospitality, to truly create memories, to understand that we have the privilege of creating memories for people, then it's probably not the place for you, because it can eat you alive. The beautiful part of watching you and listening to your story is you're back to what got you passionate about the business in the first place. You got yourself out of a hole that you couldn't see out of. There was no light, you had to look straight up to find any light. And now you're looking down going, man, that's old. I'm working on, like, and I say you've been working on social media stuff. And when I say social media, you're creating videos, you are touching the community, you are telling your story, and your sales are increasing. Oh, by the way, you're able to do that because now you have some systems in place. And while we're still trying to get you a better, stronger management team in place, you do have people who are stepping up and going, it's my responsibility to make sure the checklists are done. It's my responsibility to get the money to the bank. It's my responsibility to control labor. You're becoming a coach to your team versus the superhero that has to do everything. Am I misspeaking at all?
Oh my gosh, you're so true. When I'm putting all of my energy into running around and, doing the coffee order, and we ran out of ice, and this thing broke, and but I have to do the schedule, and you can't manage that way. And I think I managed that way for a long time. Again, I'm going to take this back to growing as a leader, learning how to be a better leader in this business. I've led teams before, but I also had a, billion-dollar corporation behind me. It's a very different thing than when you're leading 30 employees and you're it.
Yeah.
So just becoming a better leader and making those better decisions. I think that we don't have I don't give myself a choice, right? I don't give myself an option. I don't have an out. And because I love what I'm doing, I figured out how to make it work. So, thanks to you and D-Mill and everybody. I mean, Mary, everybody's incredible. Steve, I mean, you guys are like, I can see it. You guys have been through this over and over and over again. And yeah, maybe we all feel like our restaurant is different. Somebody's got a bar and somebody's doing barbecue, and at the end of the day, it's food, it's people, it's beverage.
Yep.
And that's how simple it is.
Yep.
And, there's nothing about, well, we're seasonal, and we're in this small town, and we're in this big city. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There is kind of this one track, and if you get that down, you can figure out all the other stuff.
I couldn't say that any better myself. I love that. I'm gonna steal that. I'm just gonna be clipping that and throwing it up on my website. That was awesome, and it's so true. Let me ask you a question. If somebody were listening to us now, what would you tell them if they're circling? They've been circling, wondering, should I get on a call with Ryan? Is this program worth it? Is David and his team really deliver? Or is this, what is this thing? What would you tell them if they were thinking about making that call?
Well, I tell them to, take a step back and think about the value part, right? Because everybody has a different value. What do you want? And getting really clear with themselves, and even if that's through conversations with you guys, right? What are you looking for? Are you looking for systems? Are you looking for leadership? Are you looking to get out of a financial hole? All of the above. Are you looking to have more time with your family? What is it that you want? Because I think sometimes when we're circling, it's because we really don't know what we're looking for. Right? We really don't know what it is. And I think having those conversations about, because the value is going to change for people. Some people might just want to figure out, some guidance on how do I implement the checklist. Some people might be great leaders. Some people, I think there's a lot of development that happens in this program, but I really would recommend drilling in and finding out what is it that you want, what is it that you need, and then connecting with you guys to figure out, is that something that you can provide?
Yeah.
But I think ultimately it's on us, right? I think you have this arsenal of information, you have this arsenal of support, and it's really up to the operator. It's really up to the owner to utilize those tools, because this isn't a one-stop shop. Like you're gonna, all your problems are going to be gone like that. There's no such thing. So let's not BS about it. Right. But you have developed something incredible. And if the owner operator is willing to kind of peel the onion and figure themselves out and utilize those systems, they're going to be successful.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate you doing this with me today. I actually learned some stuff I did not know about you. And so I've got more questions when we're done with this for you. But in the meantime, if there was anything we didn't talk about that you wish I had brought up, a favorite book or favorite quote you want to close with, it's yours. Again, anything we didn't talk about, a favorite book or favorite quote, the floor is yours.
Okay, yeah. So I am completely obsessed right now with AI and ChatGPT and that world. I do believe this is the biggest technology shift that we've seen for a very long time. I am fascinated with, as a restaurant owner, I'm fascinated with the approach of bridging the generations. I think the boomers, Gen Xers, Gen Z, I think Gen Z is incredible, and I don't think we give them enough credit yet. I think they are going to shift and change the way that we operate in all industries. And so I would love to talk to you about that, because I know that you have this software and this technology background. And at some point, I think we should talk about what the future of restaurants looks like, at least in the next 5 to 10 years.
And we can make that happen.
All right.
Linda, thank you so much for doing this. I look forward to seeing you on the next group coaching call and seeing where your journey takes you. Again, I am nothing but so pleased and proud of the progress you made. Like I said, I think people listening to us right now don't understand. Literally, it's like the last 6 calls. You keep coming on. I keep gushing about what you've done. When I say gush, just proud, because when you started, life was very different for you. And again, and on top of that, fires, your father passing away, you couldn't have dealt yourself a more challenging hand. Oh, by the way, it's in California, where somebody get a $22 minimum wage job at a McDonald's because it's mandated for that's your starting wage. And food is incredible. And as far as costs, and you've got liability insurance and workers' comp and all these things that are through the roof. Yet you find a way to make it work, and that's what a leader does, and that's what you truly are.
Thank you, David. I appreciate that. Thank you.
My pleasure. Ready to take the next step towards achieving restaurant prosperity, freedom from the daily grind, and the financial success you deserve? Book a discovery call with Ryan James to learn about our group coaching program. Ryan will guide you through how our program can transform your restaurant and help you achieve the prosperity and freedom you've been striving for. Click the link in the description below or visit dsp.coach/talk-to-Ryan to schedule your call now.